Well, I hope some of you stayed up late to watch that Dodger Giants game because, wow. As for Met fans and Red fans, yikes.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they call it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The best way to get a hold of me is just leave a message right down here on our YouTube page, and I will read the comments and leave a hashtag everyday Sully because that helps us find the comments. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the United States. Visit 5hewin.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. Let's jump right into it. By the way, I'm sorry I didn't have a show yesterday. I was recording a show. I had technical problems, and the quality of the video looked like the video that you would see in a security camera at a 7-Eleven. And I decided, you know what? I would rather not post an episode and do a Friday night and a Saturday night show than release a crummy looking episode because I care about you. Hey, let's take a look at who owned baseball on September 12th, 2025. Justin Verlander. Let's turn back the clock a little bit. Justin Verlander threw 7 strong innings, allowed 1 run, struck out 4, and kept the Giants in the game. We're going to talk about that game pretty soon. And it set up the dramatic victory in extra innings. Ian Happ reached base 4 times, including a home run, and the Cubs are inching closer to clinching a playoff spot. They top Tampa Bay 6-4. It does not look like we're going to have postseason games in George Steinbrenner Field. Hey, speaking of a former Yankee, believe it or not, but I think of him mainly as a Red Sox. I'm sure some of you think of him as an Astro or a Blue Jay. Roger Clemens' son, Cody Clemens, homered. Oh, I realized I just misspelled his name on SullyBaseball.wordpress. I spelled it with a C. You know the way most people do it. Obviously, he spelled with a K because his father's a sociopath, and was one of my favorite players of all time. I had pictures of Roger Clemens on my wall. The man's a sociopath. Cody Clemens, however, I have no knowledge of him being a sociopath. Homered 3 times, added a 4th hit, and drove in 5, and Minnesota edged Arizona 9-8. I think that may torpedo Arizona's thin chances of winning. Cleveland is still hanging on by their teeth, and Tanner Bybee did something really amazing these days. He threw a complete game. He struck out 10 White Sox and pitched a 2-hit shutout, 4-0 for Cleveland. Half wobs. Manny Machado had a good game, homered, singled, walked, but the Padres were doubled up by Colorado. Those are not guaranteed games, folks. You're going to be playing teams that want to win and don't want to be humiliated. You say Kikuchi, I say a half wob. He got 1 run over 6 innings, but the Angels were in the end doubled up by Seattle 2-1, and the Mariners still have a tie for the top of the American League West. And I think it's next week. There's going to be a Houston-Seattle showdown. File that under yikes. Riley Green went 2 for 4 with a home run, but Miami beat Detroit 2-1, and there's a much bigger yikes in that one for the Detroit Tigers, who may have gone from the front runner to win the American League pennant to, oh dear. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he had once again the back-to-back masterpieces. And I labeled him as an ace a couple of days ago when I talked about the fact that Paul Skeens is one of the few aces in baseball. And I was trying to think who some of the other ones were. And I threw Yamamoto in there, who came to Los Angeles with great, great fanfare, won himself a World Series ring for his trouble last year, but is now pitching like the ace that people thought he was going to be from the beginning. Came that close. Missed it by that much. That's my really, really timely Get Smart reference. A no-hitter the other day. Well, today he allowed 1 hit over 7 dominant innings. He allowed 1 hit, 1 walk, and 1 earned run and was pitching yet another masterpiece. And guess what? Dodgers still found a way to lose that one. And that was probably the game of the night. Um, and of course, there's a couple reasons why it was the game of the night. First of all, San Francisco and Los Angeles played a phenomenal game. And in many ways, it's my favorite type of game. You had two excellent starting pitchers, Justin Verlander for San Francisco, Yamamoto pitching for Los Angeles, and they both put their thumbprints on the game. Casually watching, Yamamoto was completely in control and the dominating force of that game. But the fact that Verlander kept it close allowed it to turn into a battle of the bullpen. And then you had that wild, the ninth inning where the Giants had runners on first and third. There was a shallow pop up. Pajes got it, caught the ball. The Giants pinch runner, whose name escapes me at this particular moment. Let's say he was Donnell Nixon. Let's say it was Joel Youngblood. Let's say it was Johnny Lee Master. And he tagged up and got tagged out at home plate. And then it went into extras. And there was another runner thrown out at third for the Dodgers, goes into extra innings. They load the bases and face Bailey, who hits a walk-off grand slam, not an inside the Parker this time, a walk-off grand slam for a 5-1 San Francisco victory, which tied in with the fact that the Mets continue to do a brilliant Wile E. Coyote impersonation, and they were down, I think, 4 runs before they even came to bat. I think it may have been worse. All I know is it was a game where the Rangers took a massive lead. In fact, let me find that out here. It was clear that the Mets were like they were down a bunch before they even had their first at bat, and it was for Met fans. It was 6 runs. It was 6 runs. It was 6 runs before they had their first at bat. Jacob deGrom came on. It was so funny that both my cousin Dave, who is a huge Met fans, and several of the Met fans, I think some of the people in WFAN were even talking about this, that there was betting going on that would Jacob deGrom throw a no-hitter in his return to Citi Field. Well, he didn't do that. I mean, he did let up a few runs and a couple of hits. He pitched 7 innings and didn't walk a batter and only let up 4 hits. He did let up a home run. There was a 3-run inning, but that was it. That was all the offense the Mets could vomit up. And in front of 41,000 fans who were looking like that scene from the producers when they scanned the audience and everyone going like this. Another very timely reference, Sully. Alvarez hit the home run off of deGrom, and that's all, folks. 8-3. And with that, the Giants are now half a game behind the New York Mets. The Mets, who were the best team in baseball in mid-June, are now in mid-September with roughly just a little bit more than 2 weeks to go. And Corbin is pitching for the Rangers. One of their young kids, Sprout, is pitching for the Mets. They're banking the season on him right now in many ways. Meanwhile, Los Angeles is playing the Giants. Webb, who's pitching great. Kershaw's pitching great. That's a phenomenal matchup tomorrow afternoon. But if San Francisco wins and the Mets lose, that's all that has to happen for the Mets to fall out of a playoff spot. After all the amazing things and all the amazing expectations and Met fans saying they won the offseason and picking up Juan Soto and all of that, suddenly the year that Met fans did not want to bring up was 2007. But with 2007, they were still one of the elite teams, even though they fell apart down the stretch. This is a franchise everyone was saying it's not fair, all the money they're spending. Well, guess what? Fair or not, with 3 wild card spots, all that has to happen is a rookie pitcher has to lose to Corbin and an all-star has to win a game at home. And we'll be in mid-September, and the Mets will be on the outside looking in. When we come back, I want to talk long and hard about the other team that also could have been half a game out. but fell apart, and their games at the beginning of the year worth talking about. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. This grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course favorite to a non-alcoholic boost. Perfect for sinking birdies or making great memories with friends. It's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Whether you're out on the course or just need a little extra push to power through your day, 5-Hour Energy Transfusion delivers the clubhouse flavor you love without ever leaving the green. Now, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors. The grape, ginger, lime flavor of 5-Hour Energy Transfusion gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without leaving the course or chasing down the bev cart. Now you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two at any golf tournament in the United States. Tee up that trip. Visit 5hewin.com for rules and entry. No purchase necessary, and this excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Now, FanDuel is the best way to make your bets because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, playing a same-game parlay, or even jumping in line as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. Now, today in Sacramento, the Cincinnati Reds were shut out. Carlos Cortez, I hope you put him on your fantasy team today. He hit a pair of home runs, and Cincinnati lost the game in Sacramento 3-0 in front of 8,000 fans at Sacramento. By the way, in tomorrow's show, the show of my makeup show, I am going to talk a little bit about the Sacramento Las Vegas A's situation because there have been some breakthroughs, and I'm, of course, been very skeptical and a little cynical about it. Some things are, well, seem to be moving, and some things are still giant question marks. However, tonight, the A's won again. The Sacramento won again. They beat Boston the other day. They beat Cincinnati. They're playing the role of spoiler. And let's just be honest about something with Sacramento. The Sacramento A's have been playing pretty well as of late. I mean, they're non-contenders, but kind of like last year, their final year in Oakland, where they were, they played well the second half of the season. They had a winning July, Sacramento. The Sacramento A's had a winning August. They're even September, and they, by the way, they also had a winning April as well. But I digress. But since let's go since their low point to the season on July 23rd, when they were 20 games under 500, and they were like, oh my God, this is the biggest disaster. They're going to be drawing a person per game. Since then, the A's have the second best record in the American League. And in fact, right now, with the fact that the Red Sox lost to the Yankees, and give the Yankees credit, Luis Gil credit, they played very well, and they're playing well down the stretch. The A's are now tied with the Red Sox for the best record in the American League since the 23rd of July. There you go. But the Reds were shut out. The Reds were shut out, and if they had won this game, they would have joined the Mets, and they would have joined San Francisco as being half a game behind the New York Metropolitans, with a chance to leapfrog into a playoff position tomorrow. And look, there's still some time. They could still win against Sacramento. They could still take advantage of the Mets' fall. But I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a clip of a show that I did on April 3rd. It's September 12th when I'm recording this now. I'm going back to April 3rd. The season was about maybe a week old at that point. And I made a comment to earmark that show. I said it'll be interesting to check something out and earmark that specific show. And that was prescient on my part. And I'm going to play a clip. It's a couple minutes long from the Locked On MLB show hosted by your pal Sully on April 3rd, where I was talking about a predicament that the Reds were in early April that I thought may come back to haunt the team later, and it has. This is the third straight game. This is unreal. This is the third straight game where the Cincinnati Reds have lost 1-0. They lost today 1-0 to Milwaukee. They lost the day before 1-0 to Texas, and the same thing the day before that. They're the first team to lose 3 straight 1-0 games since the 1960 Philadelphia Phillies. And it's happened, this is according to Yahoo Sports. It's happened 6 times in the history of the majors, but 4 of those times were between 1908 and 1917, the dead ball era. So since the live ball era, it's happened twice. Once in 1960 with the Philadelphia Phillies, and now. And they've, by the way, if you want to catch up on the Reds, first of all, you could listen to the good folks over at Locked On Reds, but also check out the Gamecast, the Cincinnati Red Gamecast, which are hosted by Tim Daniel, who did a terrific job hosting and going over the games today. But this is agonizing. The Reds are 2-5 right now. 2-5 after this loss to the Milwaukee Brewers. When you lose 5, it's never the right time to lose 5 out of 7 games. But I mean, this is, and again, obviously it's the first week of the season, so it's tough to go crazy. But the fact of the matter is they've played 7 games this year, and they've already lost 2 one-run games. And that doesn't count the opening day where they were 1 strike away from winning against and wound up losing 6-4 in the 9th inning. There's no runaway favorite in this division. And yes, there's over 150 some odd games to make up for it, but you're wasting great pitching. The Reds have good pitching, but you can't act like this is the 1995 Braves and have Hall of Famers up and down their staff. You have to look at this as a team that said you can't afford to have games where you have Green throwing 7 innings, letting up 1 run. I know I sound like I'm an alarmist, but we're 7 games into the season, and there are 4 games that they've lost that they've had no business losing. Let's say 2 of those flipped. And, psychologically, the idea of being 4-2 instead of, 2 and, I would be 3-2 instead of 2-5. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. I'm not good at math. The Reds got to find their bats. This is bad couple of series, but you can't keep dropping 1-0 games. This is not a team designed to be losing games 1-0. And with this division, you cannot afford to do that. It sounds silly, but earmark this and get back to me in September if the Reds are in a razor-thin race. And guess what, folks? They're in a razor-thin race. And if I said 2 of those games were flipped, not all of them, 2 of them were flipped. If 2 of those games were flipped, they'd right now be a half game ahead of the Mets. That's where they'd be. They would be a half game ahead of the Mets right now. And if 2 of those games had flipped in April, that's where we'd be. And it's a lesson that everyone has to learn a little bit here. Those dumb wins that take place in April or May are the games that will come back and haunt you. If the Reds fall short of a playoff spot, they'll be thinking of games that they lost down the stretch. This game in Sacramento will come to mind. But I'm telling you, Those games in the early part of the year where their pitching was dominant and they lost 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. Those were the games that I was thinking about. And I remember thinking, hey, do you know what? I turned out to be right to earmark that podcast because it did come back to haunt the Reds. Now, the Reds can go on a great run and overtake San Francisco and overtake the Mets and secure that final wild card spot. And if they do, good on Terry Francona. But if they don't, then I was right. Those two games, two of those four games in April came back to bite them. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you got to give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people, and it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. Now, Nutrafol is simple to add to your day, 4 pills with a meal, no prescription needed, and it's easy. And whether you're at work or out with your friends or even just getting ready for the morning, Nutrafol gives you more confidence in your daily routine. And you can feel good about it knowing Nutrafol is an NSF certified and backed by peer-reviewed studies. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter the promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. By the way, one of the things I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's show is the revelation that Anthony Volpe has been hurt. The Yankees are probably, the Yankees are going to make the playoffs. Hell, they may go very far. And they may figure out how to handle this situation going to the playoffs. But if he's been hurt since May, that explains a lot. And this poor schmuck, the Yankees have a history of misdiagnosing a lot of players and torpedoing some careers based upon how they've handled some of their players and their injuries. And Volpe is, we're like, if you're saying, God, why is he so bad defensively this year? Then you find out he has a torn labrum. I don't want to hear that it's not on his throwing arm. If you have a partial tear in there, it's going to affect how you position yourself, how you stand. You're going to feel it left and right. I mean, and if they knew this in May, if they did know this in May, shame on them. And if they knew this in May, and shame on them. But yeah, that explains a lot why someone went from an elite defensive shortstop to being me. There's another big injury that took place that Tarik Skubal came out of the game today between the Tigers and the Marlins, and he was in the 4th inning. They took him out. Now Skubal is probably going to win the Cy Young Award. I say probably because if he misses any time because of injury, and Garrett Crochet has a couple of dominant starts, he's going to have to be in that conversation. But Skubal certainly looked like he was the man to win 2 straight Cy Young Awards with the Detroit Tigers. It could, it could be a precautionary thing. It could be using kid gloves. The Tigers have a pretty secure lead in the American League Central, and you know what? You're being more cautious than anything else. But it may not be. And if you remove that Jenga piece from the Detroit Tigers, the Tigers still have some pretty good pitching. Casey Mize, Jack Flaherty pitched well the other day, although he's not having a great year. The ancient Charlie Morton. But all of those pitchers were good depth when you have a solid ace like Skubal. Now, there have been instances where teams have lost their aces and gone on to win. Hell, the 2011 St. Louis Cardinals didn't have Adam Wainwright for the whole damn season. Jacob deGrom didn't pitch one postseason inning for the Texas Rangers in 2023, and they won the whole kit and also the caboodle. It's possible to do that. It's not ideal. especially when the Tigers' main thrust is Skubal, and did I mention Skubal in that rotation? And you remove them, that's when you got to take a good long look as will that make the Blue Jays more effective? Will that make the Astros more effective? Will that make the Mariners more effective as the Mariners have been on a roll and are now tied with the Houston Astros? And that showdown is going to be amazing when they play each other. And they have good pitching on that team. The pitching's gone a little bit of a slump, but it could come back. And obviously, they got Cal Raleigh, thumping, and Julio Rodriguez thumping, and Randy Arozarena doing a decent job there as well. I don't want injuries to any of these players. I want the best players on the field. And I'm a huge fan of aces. And Tarik Skubal is one of the only aces in baseball. And suddenly, it's nerve-wracking if you're a Detroit fan. Here's what I'm hoping for, what every baseball fan hoping, even if you hate the Detroit Tigers, you got to want him to be healthy. Baseball is better when our aces are healthy, and he's one of the best aces in the game. So Tarik can get in the whirlpool. If it means skipping a start, skip it a start. And this also gives a much, much bigger reason for the Tigers to try to put on the aft thrusters and clinch one of the buys, if that would mean giving Tarik Skubal a little bit more rest. I hope it's just a precaution. I hope it's just treating with kid gloves down the stretch. Because if it isn't, then wow, we are in for that could be shattering in the American League. Absolutely shattering. By the way, thanks so much for making Locked On MLB your first listen today. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB game night, every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Might be the Tigers. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB game night here on this channel at Locked On MLB on YouTube or where you listen to your podcast. And hey, even though I had a day where I didn't have a show, I didn't get any bites on the trivia question. So let me ask it again. Who was the last Pirates player to score a postseason run? There you go. That's the question. That's all it is. Go ahead and answer it. And then we will have fun. Talking about the Giants winning a thriller, the Mets falling off a cliff, the Reds still lamenting losses in April, the Yankees coming up big against the Red Sox, but coming up small with Volpe's shoulder, and what's happening with Tarik Skubal. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.